We read today in the Bible in Isaiah chapter 61, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because the Lord hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound." I'm dealing with binding up the brokenhearted, or maybe even healing the brokenhearted. I was reading something this morning in one of my old notebooks. I wrote down, it was from a Reverend Charles R. Loss. He says this: "I once heard a minister tell of a youth who was born with a withered leg and had to wear a brace from infancy. His inability to take part in athletics like other boys caused him to develop such feelings of fear and inferiority that he had more of a brace on his mind than on his leg. He and his father had one thing in common. They believed that God could heal, could give the necessary help. So they went and knelt daily at the altar of their church to pray for God to heal him. One day, as they fervently were praying, the boy suddenly cried out, 'Father, I have been healed.' However, when the boy leaped to his feet, his leg was as before. But he had a new spirit and outlook. And to his father he said, 'God didn't heal my leg, but he has removed the brace from my mind.'" I like that story. First off, let me say up front, I do believe in divine healing as found in the atonement. He was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. A chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. I do believe in divine healing. I preach it, and I practice it. I believe in laying hands on the sick, and they shall recover. But you know what? There's been many, in fact, I've prayed for, and they were no different physically. I was thinking what I like about this story. This boy received a different type of healing, didn't he? A lot of times when we meet people who have different physical needs or whatever else, we'll pray for them to be healed and trust God to open the eyes of the blind, help the lame to walk. But in reality, we won't see that a lot of times. But I'll tell you what we can see. Sometimes that person will suddenly take a different attitude. How many people, because they were blinded, were angry at God until they learned one day that God could use them just as much blind as they could see. And I point that out for a reason. When I was a sinner, I had a thing about people who had different special needs. I'll never forget when I went to Davis and Elkins College, I saw a lady there who had a white cane, and you could tell she was blind. I learned later on she was only legally blind. God put her in my path for a reason. For though she could not see physically, she could see spiritually. And thanks to her testimony, I got saved. I'm telling you, sometimes we look at some of the problems we've had in our lifetime. How many people, they've been bullied as a child and they grow up bitter and angry and hateful. Or they've learned to forgive those people and just allow that to be a stepping stone for something they could do for God. I tell you, we can't always change those circumstances, but we can let the Lord change us so we can be a better person, so we can walk closer to Him, so we can, in spite of our problems, in spite of the things we're facing, God could use us greatly. I'm thinking of another man, Dr. Tim Lee. He was a preacher of the gospel. I don't know if he's still living now or not. I think he is. Back in Vietnam, he was running from God until one day he stepped on a landmine. And thanks to him stepping on that landmine, he lost both legs. I love the story. He told how this one friend of his who was a dedicated Christian and a black man, he picked him up and he prayed that God would spare him. I don't know all that he went through losing his legs, but I know one thing he did. He gave his heart back to the Lord. And Tim Lee became a preacher of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I'm going to tell you something interesting about Tim Lee. When I've heard him preach on tape or read some of his articles, I could not see a man with no legs. I could not visualize him with a man with no legs. I can only visualize him as a man who's preaching the gospel. Sometimes he's a little controversy, but I'll tell you what. He was a man out preaching the gospel, trying to reach souls. And I believe in spite of our handicaps, in spite of our situations, God can use us greatly if we'll surrender to Him. We read out and through the Bible about men who were left-handed. We often think that those people only were left-handed in the sense we think of it. Amen. I'm trying to find it right now. We only think of them as left-handed in the sense that we think of left-handedness. Left hand, right brain. That's not the case. That's not the case at all. That's not the case. You know what really it was? Those men were really had like maybe a right hand amputated. Maybe they were crippled in their right hand. But in spite of it, like Ehud, that's the man I was wanting to find. Judges chapter 3. So the children of Israel served Eglon, the king of Moab, 18 years. And when the children cried unto the Lord raised them up a deliverer, Ehud, a son of Gera, a Benjaminite, a man left-handed. And by him the children of Israel sent a present to Eglon, the king of Moab. And Ehud made him a dagger which had two edges. I know what I think that represents. The two-edged dagger represented in so many ways the two-edged sword. But more importantly, it was just a message that God had. I will get to it. And Ehud made a dagger which had two edges and a cubit length. He did gird under his garment upon his right thigh. And he brought the present unto Eglon, king of Moab. And Eglon was a very fat man. When he had made an end to offer the present, he sent away the people that bare him the present. But he himself turned again from the quarries quarries that were by Gilgal, and said, I have a secret errand unto thee, O king. He said, keep silence. All that stood by him went out from him. And Ehud came unto him, and he was sitting in a summer parlor, which he had for himself alone. And Ehud said, I have a message from God unto thee. And he arose out of his seat, and Ehud put forth his left hand, and took the dagger from his right thigh, and thrust it into his belly. That the shaft also went after the blade, and the fat closed upon the blade, so they could not draw the dagger out of his body, and the dirt came out. Then Ehud went through the porch, and shut the doors of the parlor upon him, and locked them. When he was gone out, his servants came, and when they saw that, behold, the doors of the parlor, they were locked, they said, surely he covers his feet in a somber chamber. And they tarried till they were ashamed, and behold, they opened not the doors of the parlor. Therefore they took a key and opened them, and behold, the Lord was fallen down dead on the earth. And Ehud escaped while they tarried, and passed beyond the quarries, and escaped the seer wrath. And it came to pass, when he was come, that he blew the trumpet in the mountain of Ephraim. And the children of Israel went down with him from the mount, he before them. And he said to them, follow after me. The Lord hath delivered your enemies, the Moabites, into your hand. And they went down after him, and took the fords of the Jordan toward Moab, and suffered not a man to pass over. They slew of Moab at that time 10,000 men, all lusty and all men of valor, and there escaped not a man. So was Moab subdued that day under the hand of Israel, and the land had rest 80 years. All because of a man crippled in his right hand. But a man God rose up, named Ehud. You may have some situations in your life today. You may have some challenges physically, maybe emotionally, but don't let them stop you from serving God. Give God your best, and just let him use you the way he chooses. I'm telling you today, it doesn't matter whether you have a handicap, whether you have something binding you emotionally, maybe you were abused as a child. Thank God you can rise above that. But regardless of what you have, God could use you and greatly use you. Back to the story. He may not heal your leg. He may not heal your hand. He may choose to. I believe God still heals and answers a prayer. And I hope to do some more preaching along the line of divine healing. Not everybody's healed. And some, even though they're healed emotionally, sometimes it took that emotional healing before they could receive that physical healing later on too. Something to think about. But this morning, regardless of what it is, he has come to heal the brokenhearted. God bless you.